And with that, let me say welcome to those of you who are here. My name is David Swanson. I'm Executive Director at World Beyond War. We are fortunate to have with us also Greta Zaro, who is our organizing director globally. And we have a couple of guest speakers who are going to each speak briefly about what they're planning and what might be helpful to you in planning events. But to give you a basic idea, this is going to be our second annual global days of action to close bases. And we're calling it days to encompass February 21st and 22nd, a weekend, and 23rd, a Monday. If you have to have an event outside of those 3 days, but close to them, that's okay too. But we're trying to pile up the events by the dozens all over the world on those days. Based on our call earlier today, there are dozens of events that are going to be added soon to the 9, I think, that are on the map on the website that we'll look at shortly. And there are going to be events painting messages on the snow in the north of Sweden and spelling things out on beaches in tropical parts of the world. So it's going to look like a global collection of actions. Last year, we had 3 different events spread out over the year, one for actions, one for media, one for education. This time we're doing it all together. February 21st to 23rd, you can do an educational event, you can do an artistic event, you can do a press conference, you can do a protest, a rally, a film screening, you can do any kind of event. And there are so many wars happening, and there are events being planned protesting this war or that war, or these 3 or those 6. And you can make that event also an event about closing bases, because none of these wars happen without bases. So the idea is really any kind of event anywhere in the world on these 3 days. And we've got all kinds of resources to make it very, very easy to help you plan such an event. And we're going to go over all of those and answer any questions and have any discussion that we can after we hear first from a couple of people. And actually 3 people now. I think that Dennis has joined us. And let me go first to Grant Luning, who is going to talk with us about one of the places that has managed to be the biggest global focus for anti-base activism in recent years, and that is Jeju Island. Grant, what can you tell us?
Howdy, everybody. Yes, my name's Grant. I'm also called Doso here in South Korea. I'm here in Gangjung Village. We're on the south coast of Jeju Island. If you aren't familiar with Gangjung Village, the anti-base movement started here in 2007, and it's continued now for, I guess, almost 19 years. Um, we have 4 daily protests from Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 and 1. And so we're sort of used to integrating these kinds of events into our movement. But this year is the 10th anniversary of the opening of the Jeju Naval Base on February 26th. So we're sort of folding this into our preparation for a big protest that we're having to mark the 10th anniversary. And maybe we'll sort of have that edge of slightly outside the window also and add that event too. So we are part of the Inter-Island Solidarity Network, which means that we're connected with bases being built or anti-base movements all across the Ryukyu Islands from Okinawa down to Taiwan, and then solidarity with Taiwanese anti-militarism activists. Last year, we were very fortunate that we had guests just visiting us in Gangjung from Taiwan and Okinawa right around that date. This year, I think we're going to be mainly Gangjung focused. I don't think we expect any visitors. So what we are planning to do is we're using our 7 a.m. and noon The 7 a.m. it's a sort of morning bows prayer ritual, and then at noon we have a more traditional march with speeches and dancing. We're using both of those as community production workshops where we're preparing for our 26th event. We'll be making banners, and we'll be making one banner for specifically the base closing event. Um, One specific difference that maybe we have with some of the other bases, although I see plenty of people here from Australia, New Zealand, is that our base is not a U.S. base. This is a Republic of Korea naval base, but because of the status of forces of agreement, the U.S. Navy has access to these bases. So part of our strategy is denying U.S. access to this base as much as possible, and then maintaining Korean restrictions on the U.S. when they do make use of this base. Our focus is kind of spreading out now into the infrastructure of bases. As I'm sure many of you know, the U.S. is strongly pressuring its junior imperial partners to turn their national bases into proxy U.S. bases. So we're trying to emphasize awareness of that as people are maybe more used to opposing U.S. bases in name, but these are now becoming U.S. bases de facto, and we want to make that clear with our rally. I'm happy to talk more about any of the other events as we go on in questions later on, but that's me, and that's Gangzhou.
Terrific, wonderful, thank you. And our next speaker can maybe speak to this better than anyone. But there are hundreds of bases that are technically not U.S. bases, but by any reasonable definition, I think are U.S. bases. So this is about any military base of any country, foreign, domestic, small, large, any shade or combination of joint use by the so-called host and the so-called operator. But there are lots of bases that aren't even called bases, and there are lots of bases that are used by one country and are advertised as belonging to another country. We just need to be straight about what the facts are and call a spade a spade. But we are very grateful to have with us one of the best researchers, scholars, authors of books and information about military bases, and that is David Vine. David, what can you say? Some words of guidance as we plan for these days of action.
I can first say thank you for the very kind words just now. I am really grateful to you, David, and Greta, and all of World Beyond War for continuing to focus our attention and the world's attention on foreign military bases and really being a key part of the global movement to close them. So I'm very excited about these days of action. I'm part of the few different coalitions that I'm going to try to mobilize for these days in a variety of ways. The Overseas Base Realignment and Closure Coalition, Overseas Base Realignment and Closure Coalition. I'll put the website in the chat in a moment. It has some facts and information that could be helpful to you, although World Beyond War's website is a encyclopedia of information and facts about overseas bases, foreign bases. So let me just say a few things that I've been thinking about in thinking about this moment and the days of action. I really appreciate and think it's so important the link that World Beyond War is making between bases and war and the ways that bases enable war, bases make wars possible. And I think clearly the war invasion on Venezuela, the potential war in Iran, and already the war in Iran from last June, and the potential of a war between the United States and China and their respective allies. Bases play key roles in all these situations, as foreign bases do in Russia's war on Ukraine. So there are important linkages to be made there. The two major things I think I would want to call your attention to are one, Trump, and number two, trade-offs. So Trump and trade-offs. Trade-offs is another way of saying money. But first, Trump. There's unprecedented anger at Trump around the world. This makes it an unprecedented opportunity to close U.S. bases in particular located on foreign soil. I think we need to channel that anger and encourage nations that are currently occupied by US bases to fundamentally rethink their relationship with the United States, their military relationship, and the presence of bases on their soil. And, countries are already doing that. So I think we need to encourage more of that rethinking and making sure that people are focused on the presence of bases in particular as they rethink the larger relationship. The only moment I can think of remotely similar was during the US-led war in Iraq and the George W. Bush administration, which gave birth to extraordinarily vibrant anti-base movements in places like Italy, Jeju, all over the world, and a global movement. So I think this is a moment where we could build an even more powerful global movement to close foreign bases, beginning with US bases. Trade-offs. I think we would need to be really careful about moving beyond a message of just close bases. If we just say close bases, we assume that everyone understands why we should close bases. I think it's really important to explain why it's important to close bases. And there are many reasons, of course, and World Beyond War has done a great job of listing and collating all the many reasons, beginning with the wars they launch. But money, I think, is often a way to reach people, especially here in the United States, especially in the countries that are deploying bases in other countries. Money and the trade-offs in particular, I think, are important ways to reach people. So in terms of reaching audiences in the United States, I think focusing on the trade-offs is critical. And I think there are two ways we can do this. One, by saying, do you want bases in South Korea and Italy and Germany and Japan, or do you want books and good schools and healthcare and housing? Do you want to fund, billionaires and weapons contractors, war profiteers who maintain these bases, or do you want affordable housing and taking on global warming? So these sorts of trade-offs, showing where we can move the money, I think is critical, which also makes an argument for why to close the bases. Last thing I'll say is when thinking about planning events, I would recommend, this sort of goes for any events generally, I think often leftists are good at, holding events, conferences, and holding protests. But all too often, those events or protests are just sort of drops in the bucket. They're one-offs that don't have a whole lot of follow-up. So I hope everyone is thinking about what the follow-up is after your event or protest or educational activity, et cetera, and thinking strategically about the role that that event or protest or educational activity, et cetera, is playing in building a larger movement. And I think, thinking strategically about if you're holding an event where people are speaking, thinking strategically about who is going to be speaking, perhaps reaching out to potential allies who haven't been allied with you yet, meaning finding people that you want to recruit into a movement and inviting them to speak, I think can be an important way to build and broaden our movements. And the last thing I would just say is making sure that anything you do is well recorded, well documented, and can have impact beyond the day itself, which is to say, making sure you record things so that you can create social media based on an event or a protest. I saw in a recent movie a protest that had a very small number of people, but edited well. It looked like an incredibly powerful anti-base protest, which in some ways it was, but it looked even bigger than it was. And because it's now in a film, it's having impact far beyond that one day of protest 5 years ago. So making sure that we find ways to deepen the impact of anything we do on those days of action, I think is critical.
Very well said. Couldn't agree more. Please send me that video if you haven't. And if people want help calculating specific financial trade-offs about particular bases and other things, let us know and we can help with that. And if there are people who want to protest a foreign base and people in the country that operates that base that want to do a twin event, that want to connect two events and assist each other, we can connect you up as well. I want to go very quickly to, I think we have a third speaker here. I think Dennis Doherty is with us from the Sydney Anti-AUKUS Coalition. Am I right, Dennis? And could you say a few words?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you planning in Australia?
Oh, look, thanks very much for the opportunity, and it's great to have David here, David Vine, and David Swanson too, of course. Um, we we really value your book, David, and I think you've been to. We got you out here a few years ago. You must come back. The big issue in front of our faces at the moment is what's called AUKUS. And that means Australia, United Kingdom, and the US have combined to create nuclear submarine, or they're in the process of creating nuclear submarines for Australia. And the prospect is that these nuclear submarines will have a base on the west coast. Sydney's on the east coast. There'll be an east coast base as well, and these, in American terms, the cost of the nuclear subs is very small. Might be, but in terms of our budget, it's an enormous cost. It's 386 billion, and some people are even predicting that will go easily up to 1,000 billion to have the somewhere between 8 and 12 nuclear subs, and they're not due to arrive. People argue about it. They could arrive in 2040. So there's been to coordinate with this global day of action. We thought we'd link the two issues, AUKUS and the anti-bases, and that even though it's on the surface, it looks like an Australian military operation. It's got the backing of both the UK and the US, and the trade-off for the US is they'll get nuclear sub-bases. They've at least got one in Western Australia, and possibly they'll get one on this coast as well. So it is in a lot of our minds, it's a cover for the US to have nuclear submarine bases in Australia. And as far as and Peter Murphy's here as well from the Sydney Anti-AUKUS Coalition, and so as far as we're concerned, we're in Sydney. We're going to go down to the naval base in Sydney Harbour. Those of you who have been to Sydney Harbour, it's quite a beautiful spot, not far from the Sydney Opera House. So we'll be down there on the 21st. And we have been reaching out to other centres in Australia, and we have confirmed that there is going to be a similar rally in Western Australia, just south of Perth. We're fairly confident there's one in Adelaide. Adelaide is where they build the submarines, and we're 50-50 think that there might be one in Wollongong. Wollongong is south of Sydney. It's a harbour city, and it is likely a few or maybe months ago it was looking like going to be the submarine base, and then some of the attention has switched to a city north of Sydney called Newcastle. And Newcastle is a hub for the Australian coal industry, and the coal industry is fading away, not fast enough, but it's fading away. And people are now saying, because of the emptiness of the harbour with the coal ships, it'd be a good idea to put nuclear subs in. So we think there'll be a rally in Newcastle, and we think also we've been in touch with Melbourne and Brisbane. So some of these are not quite confirmed yet, but that's the plan, and we're using the concern about AUKUS to emphasise the fact about bases. There's a lot more I could say about bases in Australia, but I think it might take up too much time. But just picking up one thing that David Vine said, that
very quickly.
The US has been pre-positioning fuel and material in Australia. So if there is a conflict in Iran, they have fuel and materials stored in Darwin and in Perth, south of Perth, for such a conflict. And when they bombed Iran last time, a fuel tanker took off from a base in Australia to refuel the B-1s. Anyway, thank you, everyone.
Yes, very, very good. Thank you. Very good to let people know what these bases are being used for, have been used for, and are being prepared to possibly be used for even worse things to come. And what people in countries with foreign bases are not even allowed to know. Australians apparently don't even have the right to know whether there might be nuclear weapons on bases in Australia. It's none of their business. It's just their country. I want to share screen and share with you all the resources. But I want to stress that if you have a couple paragraphs or more, or a photograph, or a video that's powerful, or is just a video of any kind, please send them to me now, and we can promote that story of your campaign, of your work, of your plans for your event, as a means of helping to promote these upcoming days. And of course, on the day of, immediately after your event, please send all photos and videos and reports. We have to be the media, as well as reaching out to other media. But this is the website that you've probably all seen. The most easily remembered way to get to it is day2closebases.org. day2closebases.org, and you'll find at the top a way to translate it. Almost everything on this page will translate into any of numerous languages. And then you'll find a map. On this morning's call, we had a couple of people who couldn't see this map. There was just a big white space. Is that the case for any of you?
No, it's good.
Feel free to let me know afterwards. You can email me now or at any time at david@worldbeyondwar.org. But if you have an old out-of-date browser or an ad blocker or some combination of strange operating system or something, there are cases where this map doesn't show up. But if it's showing up for all of you, that's great. And you see all of these points that have been added. A couple in Australia. Sounds like that might at least double. We might get one in Jeju Island. We have dozens coming that we heard from people this morning. You don't have to wait until you have every detail. You can add your event to this map. We can start promoting it, and you can add more details and updates to it. And it helps to build the momentum of this global day of action to get more events on this map. And the way you do that is to click where it says click to host. You're the host. It's the event you're hosting, and click OK on this thing, and then fill in a title and a name and a date and a time and an address. and the address can't be go past the third tree after the airport. It has to be like a street address of a place that's the closest thing to where your event's going to be. And then you can put any other kind of description you want down here in the description. But this has to be an address so it shows up on the map. And then click save and go to next step, save and go to next step until you're done. And make sure you get past the last step, because half the time the events are put in as drafts and never published. So make sure you get to the end where you publish. If you keep scrolling down this page, you find a list of endorsing organizations. If there's one you want to add that is your organization that you're qualified to add, you can scroll down here and click endorse as an organization. But these blue boxes are all kinds of resources, reasons to close bases, as David Fine was mentioning. There are all kinds of resources in here, some of which are the materials for an event. There are speakers available. There are slideshow presentations that can be added to and modified and make a great event. There are films you can screen, and you can do a film and a speaker. There are all kinds of resources here, information you might want to research about bases near you or financial trade-offs or so forth. There's a link here to domestic bases in the United States. There's this link to find foreign bases on a map goes to one of our most popular online tools that shows you all the different countries' foreign bases all over the globe, and you can zoom in and click on any one of them. You can see how many each country has where. Some ideas for types of actions: flyering, banner dropping, film screening, concert, you name it. Any kind of event works, and we're happy to talk with you about figuring out a plan for one. If this event is part of a campaign, and it should be, you can work toward some demands of what you're trying to get, and these are some ideas. But this is really the big one, is the action planning toolkit. And if you click on this, you're going to come to a document with all kinds of tools and instructions and resources, more than you could possibly need for any one event. But take all the ones that you can use. There are suggestions on how to split up assignments if you get a few people to help you on planning an event. There are checklists to run through what to do before, during, and after an event, how to design your action, how to create visuals, how to do outreach and promotion, how to reach out to the media. There are talking points. There are resources that you can take and modify, such as graphics that you can use on social media or otherwise, graphics that you can take as templates and modify, put in a name, a time, a place. There are sample emails that you can take right now and send to email lists to promote the days of action and to promote your specific event. Customizable posters and talking points, and media advisory that can go out fairly soon, alerting the media, getting it on people's calendars, and then a sample media release to do the day of, just as your event has happened, the story of your event with images, do the media's work for them, be the media yourself, take this, press release and modify it, social media, graphics and sample posts, etc. So the idea is to add here anything that we haven't, and make this as easy as possible for people to take the resources and do an event. So with that, why don't we at long last get to questions and discussion? And you can click react and click the little raise hand, or you can raise your actual hand. Or if nothing's going on, you can just unmute and shout out. But who would like to? Moji.
Um, Hi, David.
Hi.
I'm sorry if I came late. I see you have a shirt that says Iran. Earlier today, I had a town hall in which Dr. Michael Nagler was talking, and I would like to, if you can, invite you to be a speaker 2 weeks from now, 2 Tuesdays from now, because I want to focus on the need for nonviolence right now in Iran. It
Well,
is so
why don't you just email me and I'll reply and we'll see what we can.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Uh, Not a problem. Needless to say, Iran has, I think, 8 nations bordering it that have U.S. military bases in them, not to mention bodies of water. The threat is not coming from nowhere. And when Iran retaliates, it's going to retaliate somewhere. So bases are a part of every story that can be brought up in the anti-war world. Thought I saw somebody else raising a hand virtually. Maybe not.
I'm sorry.
Dennis, were you hearing? Yeah.
I forgot to say about our follow-up. We have the AUKUS agreement was signed on the 15th of September. So on the 15th of every month, we try to send a aggressive, nasty email to our Prime Minister, saying how it was stupid when you signed up, and it's still stupid. Cancel it. So on the 15th of every month, we have that, and we do have rallies in town, and we do have conferences during the year. Thanks.
I know there was some comments in the chat about virtual events, webinars, and so forth, which are all to the good. But the main focus on these days is the number of real world events we can do in physical places. So if you can do an online event, that's great. More the merrier. But we're really trying to do real world events everywhere we can and connect them and make the point, which if you've ever tried promoting a peace demonstration to corporate media outlets and found that they just couldn't possibly care less, sometimes they actually care when it's something that's global, when it's something that's happening in dozens of places all over the world and in their little place. So it's one of those tricks, and if you can involve celebrities, if you can involve things that are hot news stories, if you can involve unexpected combinations of people or groups, any of those silly tricks to get our perverse communication system to snap to attention. This is one of them. Global Day. Madeline.
Hi there. Thank you. I'm just coming. My friend Lisa's also on this call. We're from Western Massachusetts, and we just sort of jumped into this about less than a week ago, and we're gonna show the film Earth's Greatest Enemy that is just coming out by Abby Lowell, and it's about the military and climate change. And it might be, maybe it's a little tangential slightly. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I think, thank you for all the resources, because I was thinking about, like, how do we connect this to this project more, and give people resources and so on. So that'll be really helpful. I'm glad you pointed that out. And also, I just, my own feeling is like right now in the US, it's very, on the sort of progressive side, it's very popular to talk about the billionaires and how they've got too much money and all this, but I don't think generally people understand the connection between the billionaires and the military industrial complex. I just don't think that that's something people understand really. And so, I want to hopefully start getting people to understand that better. And, this is obviously one way to do that, this type of action. Let people
Sounds
get that
wonderful.
information.
It sounds terrific. We would love to help. Please put it on the map. Please email me, David at WorldBeyondWar.org. See what we can do to help. I think Abbey Lowell may be a mashup of Lowell, Massachusetts, the wonderful place where the U.S. labor movement was sort of born, and Abby Martin, which, if I'm not wrong, is the name of the woman who's made this terrific film.
Oh, sorry, I got it wrong. Sorry, Abby Martin.
Not a problem. And but for those who don't know, Abby Martin's film "Earth's Greatest Enemy" is one of the better films on this topic of militarism and the environment. And one of the ways that militarism destroys our natural environment is through military bases. Not one of the ways, dozens of the ways, because the bases are used for testing weapons and poisoning the earth's soil, the water, the air. There are bases poisoning groundwater far outside of the bases, and people are denied the right to know or inspect or restrict the pollution. There are wonderful proposals in the resources as well for converting these military bases into environmentally safe or even environmentally productive sources of green energy, etc. There's, as you know, Madeline, from the military being the Earth's greatest enemy, the connections are deep between militarism and environmental destruction.
Yes, and could I just ask quickly, like in terms of documenting an event like that after the fact, like I'm just thinking certainly we could publicize it before the fact, but how would you, when you were saying document, I mean, how do you exactly document a film showing in that, something like that?
Well, one thing you might want to look at on this website, day2closebases.org, is where it says reports from 2025 actions. That is from February 2025, when we did this before. And people sent us in a sentence or a paragraph or a page or 10 about what they had done, and photographs and videos. And so it would be wonderful to have a photo of people gathered to watch and discuss a film, and a paragraph. It could be the very same paragraph that's at the top of the press release you send out to the media, or that you put on your own website, about what you did and what it accomplished and what the next steps might be, and what you learned that many you don't have to say this in a press release, but many media outlets conscientiously avoid allowing anyone to learn. So if you go to this page and you click on any of these red bars, you'll see reports collected by country from numerous events in each country. So we hope to have more this year.
Yeah, and I would just add in terms of I was going to say if you could keep that up for a second, David. Just in terms of the documenting, if you do have a banner, Madeline, whether it's a World Beyond War banner, whether it's a banner for your local organization, or even a custom banner with global data closed bases on it. We had people do that last year. But that especially helps. Like I was looking at that picture of the Cameroon chapter there in the corner with the red t-shirts. They did t-shirts, they did custom t-shirts, and then they have the World Beyond War banner. So something like that could be good for a film screening, just to have that sign so people see the photo and immediately they know what the message is.
Who else? We have a smaller group here, but everyone therefore should get a chance.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your comments, Deborah, in the chat about the corrections to the bases map. What would be the best way to do that, David? Should we connect Deborah directly with Mohammed, our bases researcher?
As on the call several hours ago and every other call, this comes up. The most frequent comment we get on our map of bases around the world is that it's completely and utterly wrong, and we've only got 1%, or we've got 10 times the bases that actually exist, and so forth. And we got many of these on the call several hours ago, and we went through each of them, and they actually weren't looking at the map correctly, and we had it all correct. But often we get corrections that turn out to be real corrections, and we make additions and changes. To just please email me, David at WorldBeyondWar.org. It's this tool that we feel like everybody's seen a million times, but that's just us, and not everybody has. Let me get to the right page where it says find foreign bases on a map. This is one of many ways to get to this tool about military empires. Now, this is just foreign bases. And these are, to the best of our knowledge and based on our conception of what is a base, these are everybody's foreign bases. So these bases belong to some country, or are at least in significant degree used by some country other than the country the little pin is in. But if you go down here and click, you'll get just the US bases, or just the UK bases, or just the Indian bases. And if you click on, the Russian bases, and then you go look at Australia and you can't find the US bases and so forth, it's possible to get confused. Another way you can look at it is to change the operating country. That is the country whose base we're saying it is, that it's at least partly a US base or a UK base, or change the host country to limit it to, just the bases in Australia or in Korea. Or change one of these other factors, and then you'll be limiting what's on this globe. But if, as many people were doing this morning, you limit it to one thing and search for another thing, you won't find what you're looking for. So go back to the top and just click on this black image, and it will reset to all the foreign bases.
If I may say something, we have a local expert who's just joined us. He was at the opening of our art exhibition recently, and Murray Horton is an expert on the bases in New Zealand. He has been researching them for many years, all the bases, and wanting people out. And we have one at the airport, which is 10 minutes from my home. And it was for a gateway for the Antarctica, supposedly, and big planes don't go through it very often. But at the moment, I'm about again to send Greta, when I get a moment, something about we're having warbirds over Wanaka, and they used to have old planes, and they're having F-22s coming. And some of us have been writing letters and saying, well, we don't want these planes to come, because they will come through our airport. We don't know whether they carry nuclear, but they're certainly not the sort of planes we want around here. And Liz Remersvale spoke on the radio about it the other day. So I've asked people already to take some action, but we got some more signatures during our art exhibition, which was a great success. We actually we covered our costs in the art exhibition called A Culture of Peace, and we had some pictures of war, and we asked artists to display, and they paid us 25% of their art. But a lot of the people who came through were actually from other countries. So we signed up about 9 people who were from other countries as well as New Zealanders. Even a cultural thing like that can get people talking. But the other base is Waihopai. I've been to the protests there. I've been reported in the newspaper in past years, and that's Five Eyes, who spy on New Zealanders as well, and people were very angry when they found that out. So they're very low key, but they're still around, and we want them out. Thank you very much. So next year, I can't do anything this year. I've got a garden party that day. The day before, I've got another event, and our other with only 3 trustees in our Te Waipounamu branch here that we've just founded. And Man unfortunately lost his wife in our 22nd of February earthquake. And so he will obviously be on that day, there will be commemorations, and he won't be available either. But next year I should be available, and I'd like to have something happening, probably with Murray speaking, because he is really the expert, and maybe some other things. We'll see what we can do. But I can't do something at this particular weekend by myself. I'm actually quite exhausted from the art exhibition, and that's not over because I'm the treasurer. And Dennis, I'd love to be in contact with you in Australia, because I've been going to seminars with Pacific Peace Network, and I've joined IPAN, and some of the Australian people I'm a Quaker, so through those sorts of outlets, it's good to make connections. So I'll put my email in the chat, and if anyone wants to contact me, please do so. Or I'll put in the Te Waipounamu one, actually.
I think anyone who wants to connect with each other here is free to put their information in the chat if they like. It won't end up in the recorded video. We will have to get with Liz and everyone else we can to see what events can be put together this month in New Zealand, but carrying on in future years is great as well. And of course, air shows that glorify militarism tend to involve military bases or involve airports that are temporarily being turned into military bases, or airports like Shannon Airport in Ireland that we discussed on the previous call that are sort of permanently turned into military bases. But if you have ideas for great speakers that we may not have on our list of speakers, and can put me in touch with them, and I can ask them about adding them to the list of speakers to make available to people for these events, that would be great. But there is a substantial list of speakers already available on the website. I mean, who's to say which of them is available when and where, but we can do our best to involve whichever speakers you're eager to involve. Moji.
Hi, I can be, I don't know whether I'm a great speaker, but I can be a speaker about Iran. These days it is, it's unfortunately a hot topic. And so I'm a nonviolence activist, Muslim, Sufi Muslim. All of these makes me sexy, i.e. a Muslim who is not a terrorist. Instead, he's a nonviolence activist. And then, so anyhow, that's something. I sent you the email for the 17th. It would be great if we could have you. And the next one after you is Rivera's son. I want to focus on nonviolence regarding Iran right now, because I don't have to explain why to you. So
very good, and very, very good company to be in with Rivera. And if you want to put your own information in the chat for people who might want to ask you to speak, please do it. Needless to say, I guess it's a badly kept secret, but virtually every Muslim, like virtually every anything else, is not a terrorist. So Muslims must be mostly sexy, I guess. If anyone wants to put together, or their local peace group is already putting together an event focused on opposing a looming war on Iran, that is an event that can be very, very much about military bases. You could not have such a war without military bases, both very close to Iran and threatened by Iran, and the military bases of the US empire all over Europe, the Europe where the so-called leaders are supposedly standing up to the lunatic running the United States while allowing his bases to cover their countries and be used for things like threatening Iran. So the notion that I can't do this kind of event because I have to do that kind of event should usually be thought through to see if you can do them both at once. David, fine. Did you want to say something?
You read my mind. That was precisely what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and the same thing with ICE too. We know that ICE in the United States is using military bases as well, so we can really make all of these connections at so many different levels.
Indeed.
The other issue is that a country like Qatar, who's a US ally, their base was attacked because of their what's the name, their help, and so one of the things that we do emphasize here is that our hosting of the bases attracts rather than gives safety. It attracts aggression rather than provides safety. So that's one of the arguments we use anyway.
Yeah, it's painting a target on yourself and imagining it's a shield or something. It's a target.
Yeah.
If I may say that the purpose is not to create security. The purpose is to create the kind of to normalize militarism in order to then have somebody like Ayatollah Khamenei of Iran to say, "Oh, we are so threatened." So it's like as Dr. Mossadegh of Iran, who was overthrown in 1953 by the CIA and MI6, he said internal despotism and external colonialism are two sides of the same coin, especially when they need one another as enemy. So the purpose of these bases is in order to make the regime in Iran feel to provoke the regime in Iran.
One of the many evil purposes of these bases. The bases in all the nations to the west of Iran are not there just to threaten Iran. It's one of the evil things they are there for. They're also there to prop up horrible governments and suppress the people of the countries they are in. And the reason there are so many bases in Europe is not just to be somewhat closer to Asia or Africa and wage wars there, but to have the US government have tools of force within European countries. And I think the European governments know this, you know. We have 5 minutes left, and I'm sure somebody has 5 minutes worth of wisdom or bewilderment or combination thereof.
Well, today I quoted in the meeting of the peace-seeking Iranian veterans, of which Michael Nagler was the special guest. I mentioned Hannah Arendt, and I'm sure to this crowd Hannah Arendt is known, but she is a Jewish moral philosopher who survived the Holocaust. And when she talks about banality of evil or normalizing savagery, so when Israel trains ICE in order to kill people in the United States, in Minneapolis, the underlying narrative is savagery is how it is. Therefore, if you don't, if you want to resist the savagery, you need to become savage. This is why I'm a nonviolence activist.
Thank you,
So anyhow,
Luigi.
I thought this kind of normalizing evil is something that is so pervasive right now with AI. God help us.
I think some of these bases have been there so long that they are very, very normalized. That is, people are used to them. People are accepting of them in some cases. And you see a more appropriate, a more sane, a more decent moral reaction often when a new base is proposed or a base is proposed in a country that doesn't have any of them. If you could get one of the other 200 countries to propose putting military bases in the United States, you would see in the United States an appropriate reaction to how unacceptable and ludicrous and outrageous. When many years ago now, the president of Ecuador said, you can keep your base here if we can have an Ecuadorian base in Miami, Florida, you saw the sort of reaction that you should see to such a proposal. It's outrageous. And this is where we also are seeing more successes, is in preventing proposed bases and in keeping bases out. The people of Ecuador got to vote in a public referendum this year and voted no foreign bases. That this ought to be absolutely the norm in every country. There ought to be a basic human rights treaty on the books upheld by every country. There says no foreign bases. Oh, and by the way, no domestic bases either. But we're not there because, as you say, we've had people normalize the idea of stationing troops, local or foreign, in these massive staging grounds for murder. And it's it's no more acceptable than these 19th century armories that they now play sports in or stick homeless people in. Grant.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to sort of give the other side of that and encourage everyone to think about ways you mentioned, being able to continue off of these events. The leeway that we have here in South Korea is quite unique because we have been able to maintain daily protests for 17 years. And that has normalized our interventions and our ability to push to further extremes when, for instance, U.S. Ships do show up here. So to the extent that we can normalize the other thing, I always encourage people, we're taught that protests are interruptions, but often those interruptions are built on daily normalization of interruption. So whenever you can normalize the alternative through daily events, even small ones, I always encourage people to realize that it's very possible to expand your realm of action just through repetition. We can normalize the alternative.
I think very, very important point. But then we also have to escalate. It can't be just normalized and endless, and the struggle will be with us forever. It has to also be escalated until success. We are at the 1 hour mark. Do people have important things they think have not been said or asked?
Good luck, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Please be in touch. David at WorldBeyondWar.org. Please get your events on the map. Please ask me, ask each other how we can come up with the best ideas. Send any videos or photos or reports that we can promote beforehand. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye now.
Deborah, I just wanted to make sure you saw my note in the chat. Small suggestion. Okay.
Oh, you're muted, Deborah.
I don't know this person Van Jackson at all. I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him. I'm sorry.
Quite all right.
But we have the local person, Murray Horton, and he's been the ABC, and I think Dennis is involved in something like that too. I've just been reading about him for a while. Um, so, and to close bases and to get foreign people out of foreign capital out of New Zealand and so on. So that's what been his life's research, and he gets paid for that work. My husband's been a financial supporter for years of his research.
Great.
So
Great. Yeah, I think I know more Murray's
Murray
name.
Horton.
Yeah.
He doesn't stand out in the public arena at all, but we know him.
Yeah, yeah.
He turns up to Palestine rallies and so on. So, but I don't know Van Jackson at all. I don't think.
I think we've known both of these guys for a while. And if Deborah, you could reach out to Murray, and if David, you could reach out to Van, and anybody who knows any blogger or YouTuber or media person whatsoever can reach out to them and say, hey, these events are happening all over the world. I can connect you with the ones that interest you the most. And we can put them in touch with what's happening in 3 or 4 countries of their choice.
Well, Murray's mostly, as far as I know, just done New Zealand, and particularly the South Island. The two I've mentioned are in the South Island. I live near one, and I've been to the protests a number of years at the other, at the Waihopai. And every year we got media attention most years. Mm-hmm. The police were always waiting for us there once a year. So
yeah, I know we've been on email threads with Murray, and so yeah, I'm sorry to hear that the sort of the issues, the discrepancies haven't been resolved. But yeah, if you can email David and we can work with you, work with Murray, and try to straighten out the data.
I'll copy Murray in, and then if Van Jackson can, if he wishes to, Murray can be in touch with him as well. And thank you, Greta, getting me in, because
no
something I had thought I couldn't come today, but something was cancelled, and so I was able to be here at the last minute. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your work. Great to see you all of you. Wonderful.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye. Great to see you.